Do you want your business to grow faster? Are you open to new and out-of-the-box ways to drive revenues and increase value? How do you imagine the most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders double, triple, or expand their businesses tenfold or more? The answer is Deals. This is a weekly podcast featuring conversations with business owners, executives, and leaders as we reveal behind-the-scenes details that give you, our listeners, the confidence to pursue your own deal-driven growth. On the show, we discuss a huge variety of deals, everything from large, complex mergers and acquisitions to smaller deals that you can do even without significant capital. My name is Corey Kupfer, and I've been supporting deal-driven growth for businesses for 35 years as a successful entrepreneur, professional negotiator, and attorney. My goal is to help you strategize, plan for, find, and complete deals that will help your company grow faster. Welcome to the DealQuest Podcast. Let's get started. I am so excited, folks, whether you are joining us live or on Facebook here, or you're joining us on the recorded version, which is going to be as usual on all the audio places that our podcast airs, which is pretty much all of them, and or on the YouTube channel, because we've started also doing video. I have a returning guest. And Lee Hayes, and Lee and I were just talking. She was on the show a little over a year ago. It aired in March of last year, which, is a bit of a demarcation point that some of us, all of us probably remember what started happening back then. We're going to talk about that. But before we get into it, I want to give her bio a little bit. And by the way, if you want to go back to her original episode and hear what was happening at that time in the speaker industry, and also she had just gotten back from the Oscars with this scarf that we'll mention again. You can listen to that episode. It's episode 59, and it's from March of 2020. But let me introduce, for those of you who don't know Lee, let me introduce Lee. She's an entrepreneur, TV show host, inventor, speaker agent. After 2 decades in big corporate, Lee Hayes took the entrepreneurial plunge and started Go Leeward Speaker Management. And that's really how we met, was originally through the speaker industry. Supporting a small stable of exceptional business keynote speakers. She works with associations, masterminds, corporations to help them make their events wildly successful with keynotes that inspire, engage, and educate. And by the way, preview, that market's coming back soon. We're seeing it. We'll talk to her about that. In case doing that full-time wasn't enough, she developed a product, the Cool Me Scarf, which beautifully and discreetly relieves hot flashes during menopause. She now runs both companies, Go Leeward LLC and Hug Company LLC, which manufactures the Cool Me Scarf, and still finds time to host A Certain Age Celebrating Amazing Women, which can be seen on local cable in Connecticut and digitally everywhere on acertainagetv.com. Lee Hayes, I'm so excited to have you back and live on the DealQuest Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I am thrilled to be here because, like you said, the last time we met was the beginning of the end. And now we're meeting again, and it's the end of the end and the beginning of whatever's coming next.
Right. The beginning of the new beginning. I hate that term, new normal. I try not to, use it because I don't know that anything's ever normal, but I do think it is a new, it is a new era. I don't think we're actually going back to anything. I think it's, I think there's some things that have permanently changed, but we'll talk about all of that. So Lee, yeah. So let's, last time we spoke, it was the very start, of the pandemic, right? It was February. You were at the Oscars with your new scarf product. We talked about you building international, manufacturing and production. And, we talked a little bit about the speaker industry, which at that point was still as we knew it. And a few things have changed in the last year, 13, 14 months. So what do you want to hit first? Do you want to talk speaker industry, or you want to give us an update on the stuff? Where do you want to go?
Where do I want to go? Well, I guess just talking a little bit about both and what happened when COVID happened, because it happened to everybody, so everyone can commiserate. That business tanked. So this just an interesting thing about Amazon that I learned, because I was on the wrong end of it, is here I have this product that's ramping up, right? I'm at the Oscars with the Pointer Sisters, and we're wearing the scarf, and Kathy Garver, like all these really cool people. James Bond, oh my God. He didn't wear the scarf, but he had me draped on him. Right. And then it just crashed. So I come back, I'm all excited and, good morning. Connecticut says we want to have you on our show because hometown mom goes to Hollywood. And then a week later, they're like, oh, we're canceling. We're going off everything is going to be, everything is canceled.
Yep.
And then I get a note a few weeks. So nothing, like my scarf just dies. I thought, what's happening? I get a message from Amazon and it says, please be advised, your product has been deprioritized. And it's what happened was, right? So you have Amazon, which is this giant, and a lot of people still don't understand how Amazon works. They think that there's this giant store called Amazon and they have everything right there. And they just, send everything out. And what they don't realize is Amazon's actually, they do have Amazon stuff, but it's also a conglomerate of all these individual businesses that when you send your money to Amazon, they then send it to somebody else who then they ship to you. So it's lots of moving pieces. And what they said was anything that was not pandemic related, you're off the books. You got pulled back from the website. No one could find you. So unless you were a mask, a pair of gloves, or disinfectant, forget it. Amazon was completely overwhelmed. I don't know about you, but I tried to find paper towels. Our paper towels were gone. And it was
that
crazy.
Same experience. Yeah.
And I find this one box on Amazon and I get a note saying, we'll ship in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And we're a Prime member.
Right.
So that's what happened.
So you were all excited, come back from the Oscar, you launched this new product, you're getting traction, right?
Getting traction, yep.
Getting traction, right? It's exciting. You got some good, press on it. Pandemic hits, and and it's really interesting. I mean, I've been talking about this a lot on how, in hindsight, we've seen that there was this K economy that happened in the pandemic, where there were actually some industries that not only continued to do well, but actually boomed, right? I know people who got into PPE and that kind of stuff, whatever. Even a lot of my clients in financial services and tech did fine. In fact, very well, some of them. But then you had all this other stuff, retail, restaurants, you name it, whatever, which is on that downstroke of the K. And you got, obviously, your scarf business got caught up in that.
Oh, yeah. So my scarf business died. My speaker business took a huge hit. But you're right. Some of my speakers actually did very well. One of them, she does websites. She designed websites. She launches things. She said, I have never had such a good year in my life because everything suddenly became online. She went, how can I help you? Took off. But most of the business, right? So I came in 2 waves. The first wave was everyone just hit the brakes and just canceled. Events were just canceled left and right. Oh my God, it's the end of the world, right? End it. And then after a few weeks, couple months even, some people said, okay, all right, we're going to postpone. We're not canceling. We're just going to postpone. It's okay. We'll postpone till fall, November, December. Well, guess what happened then? In October, I start getting calls going, oh my God, what do we do? Like, we can't do this yet. But now, like you said, the new normal, I think the world is, for business wise and event wise, is going to a better place now because everyone used to be live. And then it became, oh my God, online. We have to do online. And now businesses, they say their events are booming because they're doing hybrids.
Right.
And I love the idea of doing a hybrid because there's so many events I would like to go to, but there's a limit, right, Corey? I mean, you're like, I can only travel so many places. But if I can do, these 3 live and those 3 hybrid, and I can sit at home and watch them, I'm in. I'll buy a ticket.
Yep.
So I think in that regard, the new normal for events is wonderful. I think it's great that the industry is actually going to expand now.
I think so too. It's interesting. Very early on in the pandemic. So this is I think also March of last year. I was supposed to fly to Miami to go to, we have somebody as well from NSA, Michelle Villalobos, I believe. So Michelle, right? So Michelle was having one of her events and I was going to fly to Miami to attend it. And this is when things first locked down and she pivoted, very scrambled pivoted to virtual, right? And she was great. She was like, hey, never done it this way before. This is an experiment. Bear with me. If you signed up for this one, we'll do it virtual. You'll also get to come to a live one whenever that is, right? Smart pivot on her part.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by the end of the first day, we had all, we were debriefing it like with her. She asked for feedback after the first day, and we had all come to the conclusion. I said to her, and she said, I was thinking the same thing. She does, I think, 5 of these a year. She concluded, and that first one, that she's probably going to do at least 2 of those going forward virtually, right? Because people were able to, take a break and walk their dogs, see their kids. They didn't have to get on a plane, and at the same time, there is obviously something that's different about being in person. And, I know what I'm seeing, like as things have started to open up, certainly in the speaker space. I mean, I also feel like things are going to come back more quickly than some predicted, whether it's travel, whether it's vacation, whether it's speaker and convention events, because there is this pent up desire to be with people. And the minute people feel safe, and obviously with the vaccines and all that kind of stuff, a lot more people are feeling the CDC is, changing its guidelines, right, in terms of outdoor masking and that kind of stuff. So I really think, I mean, one of the high-end speaker groups within NSA is having a mastermind in Vegas in June. And, like a number of us are like just dying to just get together, so, yeah. So any case, yeah. So what are you seeing then? Let's focus on the speaker space for a second in terms of sort of, bookings for your clients, in terms of how, if and how any kind of, speaker deals have been impacted, whether it's fees, whether it's structuring, whether it's whatever. What are you seeing?
So yeah, the deals have changed in some regard. And it's funny, in the very beginning when this happened and everyone was going virtual before we could go hybrid, I recommended to my speakers, I said, we need to adjust price. We have to. And I had not my group, I have a pretty flexible group I work with, but I had some speakers and I heard them saying, absolutely not. If I'm worth 10,000 on stage,
the value.
I'm worth 10,000. It's the value. And I'm like, but here's the thing, right? I remember that from the economy class, demand and price, right? You have to flex according to the economy. And what was happening was so many events said, look, we're going to do the event, but the tickets were $500 live. In person, it was $500 because we were serving lunch and we had a hotel room. We're charging $50 for the online version. Right. So let's just think about this, speakers. I know you're still valuable. But if they're only making $50 an attendee instead of $500 an attendee, they don't have the funds. So here's the choice. Either you can be flexible with your fee or you're not getting on that stage. So that I think that was a big deal. And I did have a number of speakers who did very well because they just started snapping up these small amounts. These were people who were $30,000 on stage. But when this first hit, they said, $5,000. We'll do a virtual thing for you. We'll help you out. And you know what? They were doing one after another. And the ones that I saw anyway, who claimed, I'm still getting my 30,000, they did one, right? Because the money wasn't there.
What's interesting? I mean, in general, when I teach my negotiating trainings, when I talk to my clients, whatever, right? I generally believe in owning your value, right? And not negotiating, as a lawyer, whatever, my rate is my rate. If somebody says I can find somebody cheaper, I say to them, well, if you think they're going to do as good of a job as we will, use them, right? Because I'm very thoughtful about what we charge. I know we give value out or beyond that, and I'm, big in that. Having said that, I made different choices as a speaker. I didn't need to do it on the law firm side. Law firm side, we were busier than ever. Had an amazing year. So, and there were a lot of deals going on because, a lot of my clients were on that upturn, and even on the downturn side, there are deals that happen in distress situations.
Yeah, you lawyers do well either way.
But I'll tell you, it was very different back in 2000. In the Great Recession, I actually got crushed because that was a whole different market. For me, there were no deals going on. Clients were going out of business. So, but in any case, I know you were kidding. But the thing is that, I think what you're pointing out is, and it's the difference when I talk about getting clarity and owning your value. I also talk about one of the big reasons negotiations fail is rigidity, right? So there's one thing to own your value and say whatever, but then you also have to recognize, which is what you're pointing out, change in circumstances, right? And it's not like, it's one thing if a speaker, an event manager, speaker bureau, whatever it is just undervaluing you because they're undervaluing you. Okay, then I'm saying, but if they're saying our circumstances change because we're getting 1/10 of the revenue that we used to from this event, so we don't have a budget. It's not a slight on you. I 100% agree with you, and I adjusted for virtual stuff. And listen, here's the other thing. I don't have to get on a plane, stay in a hotel. A speaking gig is I walk into my studio, I sit down for an hour, right? As opposed to being away for 2 days. That's also, a factor. So I agree. I adjusted. And listen, frankly, I did a number of talks on negotiating for several of the Entrepreneurs Organization chapters in the Middle East. And they had been talking about trying to bring me over for several years, and it hadn't happened. And now doing those virtual talks has actually made it more likely they're going to bring me because they got a taste of me. They're excited. They're referring me, and they're like, when this thing's open up, we got to get you here to do something bigger, right? So it's actually, been good. So in any case, I'm in your camp.
And that's the same thing that happened here, is that the deal became, yes, they'll do something virtual for you now. We'll make it cheaper, but then have them, as soon as we open up, they'll be the keynote. So you start working the deal that happens down the road, anticipating that's coming versus just going, you can't afford me? Forget it. Slam the door. I don't believe in slamming doors. I always like to keep my foot in there and say, you know what? Let's see what we can do now so that we can work again in the future.
Love
and,
it.
And just, the way I negotiate, I'm not sure the way you teach it. I want to hear, when we can talk about how we each do it. But what I do when I call is the first thing I don't ask is what's your budget when you're talking to an event planner.
Yep.
My first question to them is, how many people? Actually, my first 10 questions, right? How many people are you having? It's a charged event. Really? What are you charging? Do you have a VIP group? Et cetera, et cetera. And as they're talking, my little mind's going tick, 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 tick. Here's how much money is coming in. I know that, sponsors, really? Do you have big sponsor tables? $10,000 a sponsor? No kidding. Tick, 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 tick. And then I go, okay, I know they have $150,000. That's what their revenue should be. Now then, what can they afford as a speaker? And so when I started talking to them during COVID when everything was closed down, are you having sponsors? Nope. They've all dropped out. We're, virtually we're selling $50 a piece. If the money's not there, you simply can't get blood from a stone. So.
Yeah. And listen, it's become a cliche, but some people, it's only a cliche, and some people really, really live in it and believe in it. And it's all relationships.
Oh, yes.
Right. So when it's a challenging time, and again, I believe in owning your value, but being in some sort of rigid ego place, when your partners is the way you should be looking at them as struggling, not to help them through, I think is short-sighted. And I think it hurts you in the long run.
Yep. Although I don't believe in free. I'm a big no free person. And even if they're struggling, say, that's okay. I'm still bringing value. I need to get value back. Some people go, because in the beginning that happened. I don't know if you saw that with the speakers. I know you know a lot of speakers. So many speakers were suddenly doing free work. I'm going, stop it. Not free. Free means no value. No free.
And let's clarify that, because I've had this discussion with folks, and I think you and I have had it as well. So I really want to clarify for the audience. When you say no free, or let me put it this way, I actually speak for no money sometimes. I never speak for no value.
That's what I mean. No money's
right.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to be clear on. Like,
yep.
I give an example where there's a very targeted M&A conference in the investment advisor space. That's it's actually my single biggest niche, right? Mm-hmm. That conference attracts 150 owners of investment advisory firms who are looking to do deals. You couldn't define a better target market for me, right? Mm-hmm. That conference doesn't pay a speaker fee. It doesn't even cover my travel and hotel, right? There's by the way, other companies and associations out there, this is not my usual model. I rarely do this, but I will.
But
pay
their audience is pure gold, right? I mean,
it's pure gold, right? And for me, I've spoken 3 out of the last 6 years there, right? I this past one, I'd have to go back and look at the data, but the one before that, right? I booked over 6 figures, right? Mm-hmm. Coming out of that, yep. Right? Now, listen, I'm not a 6-figure keynoter at this point, right? Nobody's cutting me a check for 6 figures to get on a stage. So whatever the speaker fee would have been, right? $5,000, 10 grand, 15 grand. I mean, compared to booking, what is, 10 times that, 150, whatever. Plus, by the way, it's with folks I have on clients now I have ongoing relationships with. So it's going to be for years to come on the law firm side. It would be crazy for me to turn that away because I'm getting value. So yeah, I just wanted to make that distinction here. There's a difference between, we say don't speak for free. What we mean is don't speak without getting value in some way.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for clarifying. That's absolutely what I mean. In fact, it's funny. I was once at an event and Jeffrey Hazlett, I don't know if you know him, is CEO.
Sure.
So he's up there and he's the keynote speaker and he's talking and he's like, never speak for free, never speak for free if they don't pay you, blah, blah, blah. And I followed him. And now, I'm not a speaker, but I was there for specific reasons. I was on a panel and I get up and Jeffrey Hazlett now is sitting in the audience looking at me and I go, here's the end of my career. I can see it now. The keynote was just on stage and said, never speak for free. And I'm going to disagree with him. And I go, what I think is never speak for no value. And he gave me a thumbs up and I go, oh, thank God my career's not over because I get to see him being like, never deal with Lee Hayes again. He's like, yep. But that's the truth. But you need to see the big picture when you're a speaker. The deal is a big picture. It's the audience, like you said. It's sometimes they'll say, you're not going to pay me, but I'll give you the mailing list. Heck yes, right? Now you have their mailing list. Or we're going to have media there and I will set up an interview for you. And let me clarify, just because the media is there doesn't mean anything. They need to set up an interview for you. But and we'll promote you. We'll put you on our social media X times. We'll promote you through our email X times. All these things have that. Oh, we'll take video and give you the video and it's going to be good video because that, right? As a speaker, you can never have enough video.
Yeah. What would you pay for a great 3-camera shoot? That if you had to do it on your own, right?
Yeah. You pay a couple $1,000 to bring somebody in to take the video and you can never have enough video. So that's value. So absolutely got to play for the value. And that's not going to change now. I think there was more focus on value during COVID because there wasn't as much cash. Right. But now as the cash comes back, don't forget about that value. So many speakers forget about it. They just look at the fee and they're going, well, I'm back to my 10,000. Yeah. Even if you get the 10, you still want the sponsorship table, selling your books, getting the media, all these things, right?
And there's so many ways to be creative. I mean, one thing I remember I did, it was actually at one of those conferences that I'm mentioning, that I mentioned before, the M&A conference, when my book came out, right, a few years ago. I was speaking that year, and I said to the organizer, and again, remember, this is 150 people, target market, couldn't be more perfect. I said, how about I give away a book to every attendee? They're like, oh my God, that would be amazing, right? It's a value for them, right? Everybody's getting a free book on negotiating from, an attorney who is known in this particular niche, right? Mm-hmm. To me, it's unbelievable, right? I spend $4 a person, for 150 of my ideal target market clients who now have a book, my book. And not only that, but I noticed that there was a one evening of the conference that there was an early dinner and then nothing scheduled afterwards. And I said to the organizer, I said, listen, would you mind if I got a suite as opposed to a regular room. And I said to the conference organizer, would you mind if can I announce, or will you announce to me on the program, right? Before dinner, at dinner, whatever, that, there's an after dinner event up at my suite and I'll be doing a book signing. Yeah. Right. He said, sure. Right. Announced it. Brilliant. Right. I spent $500 on alcohol, brought up some scotch and some whatever from the hotel, spent a little extra money on a suite and sat and signed books for people. Right. I mean, and got pictures, got whatever that I was able to post on social with all these key players, in the industry, which I was able to leverage. I mean, the value of that is, how does that work? Right.
I think some speakers forget that a book's not a book, right? A book is a business card that they're going to keep on their desk in their office for the next couple of years.
Yeah. 100%.
With your name on it and your information on it. It's fantastic.
Let's take a break from the show for a minute so I can invite you to a new way to determine your deal readiness. I created a fast and easy assessment that will determine exactly how deal ready you are. Once you complete the assessment, I use your responses to identify the obstacles that are holding you back from being a deal-driven growth genius. It's as easy as heading to CoreyKupfer.com/assessment. That's CoreyKupfer.com/assessment and filling out a few multiple choice questions. I'll be checking in after the episode to see what your results are. Now back to the show.
What are you seeing now? We sort of brought it up. We said things are starting to go. Hybrid's going to be. What are you seeing? I mean, I'm seeing, more and more live conferences starting to come back. What are you seeing over there?
Same thing. They are starting to come back. Either they're already going live. I have a speaker at an event in New Jersey in 2 weeks. Florida's wide open. Florida's always been wide open, right? The wild, wild west of Texas is wide open. They're having events. Utah's wide open. They're having live events. And so there are definitely these plans in certain areas for live, but there's also the biggest surge I'm seeing is people planning for 2022, that they are absolutely sure and secure that it's going to be a full ride. So that's exciting to see that I actually have bookings on there for my speakers for 2022 already. Great. Because 2021 is a little shaky. People are still going, well, it's going to be hybrid, I think, but 2022, they're going, let's go. Let's do this. Big events. So it's exciting to see it opening up. So what are you doing? Sort of the setup for the deal with your speakers. It's what's the pitch? How is it different than what it was pre-pandemic? I think there's more focus now on that hybrid event. So I have speakers who are doing more little things for the client. So they're still focusing on the big keynote on stage, but there's more of, let me do something for you on social media. Let me do a Facebook Live, right? I had a speaker last night who did a meet and greet on LinkedIn. And the client was wildly happy about that. And I think it's important to not push back on clients because, again, I've seen some speakers who nickel and dime, right? They'll say, well, I'll do the keynote, but if you want me to do the Facebook Live for 15 minutes, that's another, $1,000. If you want me to do the promo video, that's another. And I believe you get more success if you go all in on the client. Once you have that speaker fee, you need to, in this day and age, give more. Do the social media, do the whatever. It's not a lot of time for you, but it's a lot of value for the client, and it's going to help them with this hybrid feel. Because one thing I've definitely seen is that speakers who are good on stage are not necessarily good on camera, and vice versa. So practice both and be able to deliver both. And
here's the other thing that I've heard, even from great speakers I know, who are actually have done well on in both environments. Mm-hmm. Doing it hybrid is a whole other thing. It's a challenge, right? Like, in other words, you could be great on video and great on stage, but when you have to do both and work to a live audience and also a remote audience and to a camera, that's a whole different thing as well. And frankly, I haven't done a hybrid event, yet. I've been doing plenty of video and we have some live stuff coming up, but I've spoken to a number of my speaker colleagues, and that's to sort of balance that and how do you because your engagement tools for a live audience are different than your engagement tools for a remote for a virtual audience, and now when you have both, how do you do it in a way where you're not leaving out one group or the other? Like, it raises a lot of things for speakers.
Absolutely right. I mean, I guess you need to treat the camera like it's another attendee. So you've got your audience here, and then it's like, hey, how are you guys doing at home? You know what? I'm willing to bet that's what teachers have been going through, because my kids have been home from school, but then when they went back, my sons were telling me, they said they're paying more attention to one or the other. So if you're at home and they're paying attention to the camera, the kids in the class, my one son went back early and he said, Mom, I want to come back home because I'm only looking at the back of the teacher's head. They're not paying any attention to the people in the classroom because there's nobody here. And I can see speakers having that same issue on stage, that you forget about one or the other. And you're absolutely right. You need to balance it. You have people out there and people out there.
Yeah. That's a challenge. But going back to your point about what you package into the deal, to the speaker fee, For me, that part of that comes down to, well, two things. One is, and something I speak about a lot I don't mean to speak on stage, but speak to my speaker colleagues about a lot, is, and I think this pandemic has highlighted it for a lot of folks, and I've been talking about it for years. I come from the business side, right? I started speaking as an adjunct to my law firm, and then, broke it off into a separate brand, and, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm always looking at business models. And part of the issue is, if you only make your money being on a stage and you have no business model that drives people to other, revenue sources, right? Whether it's online courses, whether it's consulting, whether it's, masterminds, whether it's workshops, whatever it might be, right? Or ancillary businesses like, with a law firm, or then, every dollar you get related to your speaker fee and your time is highlighted, right? It's, in your mind, because that's the only way you're making money. And obviously we've learned in the pandemic that if that's the only way you're making money, you have a vulnerable business model, right? So that's, that's the first point. And then frankly, and this is just human psychology, coming out of a time when a lot of speakers have suffered, especially the ones that either didn't pivot or didn't have other things in their business model, right? They were keynotes on stage and that was it. There could be this easy human tendency to want to make up for the money you've lost, right? And get sort of stingy or contracted, around, not, about wanting to make the most you can for the, and I think it's a huge mistake, because people sense that energy. And if the more sort of contracted or desperate you seem, the less attractive you are to folks.
Well, it's like what you just said before. It's about relationships, and part of the relationship is giving as well as receiving.
Yeah.
So you have to say, we're in this together. Let's make it work. Let's both make huge amounts of money. You're going to pay me. I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
And but it's interesting what you said about the pivot. So as a speaker agent, I had to do the same thing because there were no events going on.
Yep.
And it used to be that speakers would come to me and say, "Hey, can you help me get on stage? I'm not that, I don't quite know how to get there." Like you said, speaking is a business, and so many speakers forget that when they're starting out. They think speaking is an art.
Yep.
It's not. The art is like, I think I calculated 17% of your business, and when you're a speaker, is your stage presence. The rest of it is all business.
Yep.
And so what I did during the pandemic, and I'm still doing now, because I think what's going to continue, is now when speakers come to me and say, "Can you represent me?" And I say, "Absolutely not, because you're not ready yet for an agent, but let me help you get there."
Yes.
So I'm starting to teach speakers the business of speaking. They still go and they learn stage presence and they write their keynote and all that. That's not what I do, but I teach them all that background stuff, the negotiating, the deal, the contracts, how to get there, how to position yourself, how to market, what's your, all those aspects, which are easily ignored.
Yeah.
For the exciting part of the spotlight. So
good stuff.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about pivoting. Let's pivot the conversation for a moment.
Right.
So we left off, we didn't intentionally create this as a cliffhanger or anything, but we left off where your scarf business died because Amazon said, "You are not PPE, you're not sanitizer, you're not whatever, we are deprioritizing, meaning goodbye." What obviously the world has changed on that end as well, and people are buying other products. And it's just as a little aside, then I want to come back to the direct question to you. What's interesting to me is, even in product stuff, like for example, I've got a buddy who was in one of my entrepreneurs organization forums, who one of his businesses is doing super high-end audio equipment, and that business is booming. Why? Because first of all, it's high-end, so it's for people who have means and and had some more cushion and leeway during this time. Second of all, and who are more likely the people who can work from home, right? They're not out delivering food and in restaurants or whatever. And because they were home so much more, people were spending money. They weren't spending money on vacations or going out to eat or whatever, but they were, if they're going to be home more, they wanted a higher end audio, system, and it's many other things that people invested in terms of home, right? So his business, was really, really boomed over this time. But so as things have changed and opened up, though, what has happened in terms of the scarf?
Well, so the decline happened more and longer. So a big box store, which was looking at it, started closing their stores. We won't talk about them, but they closed quite a few of their stores. So that was a hit. Wow. I had a buyer I was working with. He said, this is not working right now. So he dropped me. That was a hit. But actually I discovered a really cool model recently. I don't know if you've ever heard of Zulily, but I'm going to promote Zulily right now.
Yep.
They're owned, I believe, by QVC.
Okay.
But anyone who does home shopping, they know how that works. So you watch the TV, the product comes up and they show you the product, and then you have, 30 minutes to buy, yep, and it's gone. Well, Zulily is owned by, I think it's QVC. They do an online version of this where if you are a member, you can't shop there unless you've given them your email. Okay. And you get regular emails of the product. And what they do is they bring new products every day. They call it a new store every day. So it becomes this exciting thing, right? That every day you go, ooh, well, let me see what Zulily has today. As a vendor, it was exciting when they picked up my product, but it's a flash, but it was my flash to get going again. That they brought it on and you hit their landing page the first day. So yep, all these things go out and your sales go crazy and you get a purchase order the first day with the list. Their whole model is really cool because they do all the shipping. They do everything. They just give you a number. They go, we want this many scarves. You throw them in a box, ship it, you're done. And they take care of everything else. So that was awesome. But it was just like the home shopping network. So you hit the landing page the first day, you have all these sales, and then you go to the back, like the second page, third page, and then they drop you off.
Yeah.
But that was my big back. So now, I've got to get back into Amazon going again. Amazon sales have started, but I haven't started advertising there yet.
Yep.
One problem I have with my product is it's a scarf, and there are still many PPE products called scarves. All those gator scarves and things like that. So when you have 100,000 people selling a product by the same name, which does something different, that still makes it a little bit tough. Right. So I'm biding my time.
For people to find it, know what it is, whatever, you're getting drowned out still.
Right. But if you're looking up, scarf, the menopausal scarf is not the first thing that comes up, right? It will be right, PPE products. But it's starting to come up again. The surge is happening. So Zulily gave me the kick in the pants, to get me going again. And then, I got featured on, Alibaba, which is a big importer. Yeah. The other day I saw my name pop up on social media. I was like, wow. And they had this big feature about me. I went, oh, that's really cool. Because they had featured me a year ago.
I remember that because that was happening when we actually recorded they
podcast. Came to my house and they had a film crew. It was so cool. But then everything tanked there too. So now they must be reviving things. And I was like, hey, I'm part of their revival. So I can see that all these things are starting to come back up again. So it's exciting. And menopause doesn't go out of fashion.
No, it's that is one thing that is great for that product, right? Because it's just there's always going to be a market, right?
There's always a market. There's always another person going, oh my God, we all keep getting older. For all you youngsters out there, guess what? You can't beat it. You're going to get older too.
Yeah. Hopefully, because the alternative, right? Well, good stuff. So it's interesting. I know you sort of relayed how the different industries in your business were impacted by the pandemic. Any lessons that you personally have learned coming out of this? I think we've all learned lessons in this crazy time. Anything that comes to mind, business wise, deal wise, entrepreneurial, whatever, that you want to share?
Well, deal wise, I would just love to share with my potential clients. And that is, the bigger I get, the more competitors I have. So when I had one or two speakers, I never heard anything about agencies because they didn't care. And now when I talk to clients, because my clients are bigger, they'll say, oh, we're looking at a few agencies. So in their mind, I'm starting to look like an agency. But my learning on that was how to differentiate. Because I think many people now who are starting to put events on, events are opening up, are contacting agencies to find speakers. Because I think speakers have diminished, right? There have been people who've dropped off. They wanted to be speakers. 100%. They've given up. They're out. So people are starting to reach out to agencies. And here's my advice to them, being really listen to the first thing that the potential agency says to you, because it's going to impact your whole relationship with them. And if you contact an agency and the first question they ask you is, what's your budget? Hang up the phone and walk away. Because here's what happens. Because I've had to deal with agencies, right? There have been times when I have clients that have said, get whoever, some big name speaker, and then I have to go to an agency. And I'll give you the horror story. The first time I discovered this is somebody wanted Sugar Ray Leonard. Remember Sugar Ray?
Of course.
They said, we want Sugar Ray to speak at our event. So I Googled him and I went to his website, and they said, all right, here's our agent, contact them. So I contact them. I said, I talked to Sugar Ray Leonard's personal assistant. They said, come to you. I have a client. They would love to have him speak. And they said, okay, what's your budget? I said, all right, my budget is blah, blah, blah. We're looking for Sugar Ray Leonard. They said, okay, thank you. And then they sent me information about like 8 different boxers, athletes, Olympic people. I'm going, where the heck? Well, they just sent me my budget.
Right.
They didn't care about what my client was looking for. Now, Sugar Ray was on the list down below, but I guess my budget didn't quite match with his budget. So they were looking at the money. So I sent an email to his office. I said, just be advised that I specifically called them and said, hey, I want a contract with him. And they gave me everybody else, but him. So be aware as a client, if you go to an agency and they say, what's your budget? That's where the conversation stops, and they will find you people in that budget and send those people back to you. What I try to do, what's different, is if you come to me, Corey, and you say, I have $50,000 for this event, I want somebody great. Well, I might go, you know what? I have this guy who is perfect for you. He's a $25,000 speaker.
Yeah.
Many agencies will go, but he'll do it for 50 and they'll take your full funds. Or they'll only give you people at that range and not the people who are the best fit for you, for your needs, but who are the best fit for you financially.
Right.
So I think that's my big learning right now. The big learning I want to pass on is figure out what is your need? What is your focus? And for most event planners, their focus should be next year's event. Yep. You want this year's event to already set you up for the next one. That when people are leaving after your closing keynote or even after the opening keynote, they are so excited and juiced and they've gotten so much content that they go, I got to come next year. And you sell your tickets right there for next year. So now year over year, you're growing. So you need that great speaker. You need the great content. You need the great event. I've seen a lot of events where they'll try to make the buck, right? The short buck. And they'll say, well, I'm going to charge people, but I'm not going to pay any speakers. I'm going to find free people. And there are free people out there.
Yep.
Right. Because they're selling something.
Yep.
And I don't mean like, you're selling a service, but I mean, we have the marketing director for Google. Well, great. They're going to talk about Google. It might not help you, but they're free because Google's paying them.
Right.
But then, so you're at the event and you go, oh, I learned all about Google.
Right. A lot of those speakers are going to spend too much time
on their
promoting
brand,
the product as opposed to giving value. And some of them may be super, competent executives, but they're not professional speakers.
Oh,
so
God. Some executives are so bad, Corey. I'm sure you've seen them. They're awful.
Yep.
But what happens then is you're not building year over year. So everyone goes, oh, that was mediocre. And I think I spent too much and one and done. You've got to do something that's going to wow people, that's going to make them say, I want to come back.
So let me close. Well, I have a thought that I want to run by you and see whether it actually just sort of came to me. I've been thinking about it a little bit. I think there's going to be this window. So you talked about how you believe, and I agree that speakers, when these events will make a lot less money because they went virtual, that a speaker should be flexible, right? I think as we come back now, obviously, as long as there's limitations and you can't have as many people, the economics are not going to work. But I think the smart folks that you're talking about are booking out into 2022, when I think we're probably going to be back to, full capacity. And whether they have, requirements that you have a test or a vaccine or whatever, that's a whole separate conversation. But I think in some way we're going to be back. I I think the smart folks are, you can get amazing deals with hotels and venues and whatever nowadays. They're dying. I mean, even at a micro level, I'm finishing up my presidency year with NSA, National Speaker Association New York chapter, which has been a weird year because we've been totally virtual. And the June luncheon, we're going to do our first live event, and it's basically where 20 minutes into it, I hand over everything to the new president of the new board. So it'll be my one live event for NSA. But
here I am. Goodbye.
Here I am. Goodbye. Exactly. But what we're seeing, even in like looking to book venues for that thing or whatever, is that these venues are dying to get people in. They have flexible cancellation policies, and they've got and you get really good deals. So I think some of the smart conferences, or a lot of them, are probably locking in amazing rates with these hotels and venues now for their 2022 events. And I think because people in my mind are really keen to get back live when things open up, I think they're going to be able to get full pricing on the live events. So they're actually going to have more profit in my mind for a temporary stretch, probably for 2022, right? Because people booking in 2022 for 2023, the prices will probably be back up. So I think there's this unique opportunity deal wise, this sort of arbitrage that's going to happen with the smart companies and associations and planners who are booking now for 2022 events to book in at a low price, which in my mind actually maybe leaves a little extra room for speaker money. So I don't know what you think, but that's what I've been thinking.
Yeah, no, I agree that I think you can be, you can be where you want to be with your speaker rate, because the money is coming back. And you're right. I think now is a great time to make deals. Absolutely. Be bold, granted, sometimes you're going to lose, right? But I think the time is now to plan those big events. Like you said, there are deals to be made, there are deals to be had, and the speakers are going to be able to pay their bills again too. Love
it. Lee Hayes, anything else you want to let people know about? How do people connect with you? Where do they reach you? Where do they watch this the show that you do? Give us your contact information so people know where to find more.
Okay, everybody grab a pencil. There's a lot of contact information. So my TV show right now, the studio is closed.
Okay.
So it's on hiatus, but it will be back, and it might be morphing into something a little bit bigger.
Okay.
But if you want to see old episodes, that is acertainagetv.com. For my scarf, you can look up coolmescarf.com for all you flashing ladies out there. And then for the speaker businesses, which is really where I spend most of my time, is goleeward.com. That's GOLEEWARD.com. And if you are a speaker who's looking to learn the business of speaking, it's pathtothemainstage.com.
I love that. Pathtothemainstage.com. What a great URL. I didn't know that. I knew you talked about this new thing, but wow, that's amazing. I love that. Pathtothemainstage.com.
And I'd love anyone who wants to give me feedback on my website. I did reface it. Everybody should be doing new and fresh right now, and my website is very new and very fresh right now.
Lee Hayes, I am so appreciative of you coming back as a returning guest in this new time, in this new era. It's so fascinating, the timing. We literally were March of last year at the start of this thing. We're now, live end of April, and on the audio and other versions will come out in May. So we're sort of bookending this pandemic with Lee Hayes. And I really appreciate you coming on, and I know people got a lot of value. Definitely check out Lee with everything that she's got going on, and and especially, like I said, I met her, where a lot of people, or a number of people I trust, had amazing things to say about Lee, in the speaker business and helping speakers, in the way that she talked about. So if you are, a speaker and not a starting speaker, you can go to her training for that. But if you are a somewhat established speaker who's looking to be at the next level, and want support in getting booked, then Lee's a great person to go to, and you can tell how much knowledge she has, and she's just a really nice person. Like, you'll like working with her.
Thank you.
So, Lee, thank you so much for being a return guest on the DealQuest podcast.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much, Corey. It was great.
All right. Take care, folks. See you all next week.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of DealQuest, where we help you understand how deal-driven growth can be your ticket to freedom. I want to invite you to a unique way to tap into the wisdom and experience of the DealQuest community. Join the DealQuest Deal Den Zoom calls, a free monthly 90-minute mastermind. In the mastermind, we address all the challenges you may be facing and help support you with the opportunities that may arise in terms of deal-driven growth. You will get input not only from me, but all the members on the call will collaborate and serve each other in a mastermind format. To sign up for the free mastermind, go to www.corykupfer.com/dealden. That's corykupfer.com/dealden. I'll see you there. I'm Corey Kupfer. Until next week, wishing you the freedom and financial prosperity that I know your DealQuest will bring.